Hey y'all, this is BG Codes and I am bradgarropy. I wanted to film another devlog because I recently finished a little side project and I wanted to share it with y'all. So lately I've been listening to this freestyle rapper called Mack. And he's got this YouTube channel and he freestyles like live in person, and he also freestyles like over Twitch and places like Omegle and all sorts of weird stuff. So this is what he does. He takes random words from people and he mixes it into a freestyle rap. Here's a sample.
I'm about to kill the game, everyone can trust me. I be carrying my weight like huskies. I be kicking more lyrics off the head.
So while he's doing this freestyle rap, he needs words, and random words at that, to continually challenge him to think up new raps on the fly. And I thought, well, this would be a really fun little web app to make. So I went ahead and made it. This is the GitHub repo. I call it Freestyle Flashcards. And it's just going to be a random word with an image associated with it. And you just click to get a new one. So here's what it looks like. It's pretty like stylized. It's got his logo at the top. And you'll see here, there's a picture of window. And then this is a random word, window. And then I can just click anywhere and get a new random word and an associated image. So the first thing I had to solve was like, how do I get these random words? And then next, how do I grab an image associated with that word? So for the random words, I use this NPM package called random words. And I'm not totally sure how this works under the hood, but I'm assuming there's just a gigantic text file with words in it. And there's all sorts of fancy like arguments you can pass into random words, but I just used it as is. I just called the function and opened and closed the parentheses, and it seemed to give me words just fine. And so once I had that random word, I had to go to Unsplash to grab a picture. And I used Unsplash because they have really great high quality pictures, and they have an API with an SDK that you can use a search term with. So if the random word for this case was like sun, I was able to use the Unsplash SDK to say, give me a random image that matches a search query of sun. And they also have some other cool arguments like what aspect ratio it is. Like I wanted these to be landscape, so it could fill this. And what's cool is I actually got approved to be a production app. If you register your application, you're bumped from 50 requests an hour up to 5,000. And all you have to do is just prove that you're properly crediting the photos. So that's why you see here, there are links out to the photographer and the Unsplash website, because that's required for you to get more requests per hour. And they're happy to work with you on it. I had a great experience with their support team getting that done. So let's dive into the code a little bit and see how it works. I'm using Next.js. This is version 11, the latest version. And this is kind of like my main index file. Really all it is an index.tsx. I'm using TypeScript here. And I just render a flashcard component. And underneath that, I render my little built by BG logo. And this is the flashcard component. This is just the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. And it's fairly simple. It's a double div to get that double border on the outside of the flashcard, that white and black border here. Then jumping inside, you've got your image, which I did use the next image component. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the blur up to work with dynamic images. Even though the Unsplash API does give us a blur hash, it's not quite in the format that Next.js expects. And I ran into a bunch of trouble trying to make that happen. So down the line, maybe that's a great improvement. And the way I kind of handle state changes is as I click, you'll see that as soon as the API request gets back, I'll update the text and the random word. And in just a little bit later, when the image finishes loading, I replace that. So it's as graceful as it can be until I'm able to add that nice blur hash and transition. Let's see, what else was kind of cool about this? I used CSS modules for the first time. I actually got away from styled components because CSS now offers variables. And that's really what I cared about with styled components. And nonetheless, CSS offers runtime variables. So I drop style components, use CSS modules. It turns out to be pretty simple. You just import your styles from a module.css file. And then inside of your styles, you define classes. And the way it imports it is kind of like an object. So when you define class names, it kind of feels like JavaScript where you're typing styles.wrapper as if styles was an object and wrapper was a property on that object. And here's what a module.css file looks like. It's literally no different than a regular CSS file. And you'll just see that wrapper and flashcard and image just correspond to like properties on the styles object. And of course, I'm still loading in global styles where I define a lot of my colors using variables there so that they're accessible through the entire application. Now, when I access the Unsplash API, one of their requirements is do not expose your secret key. And that makes total sense. So you have to use a serverless function as a proxy so that your actual call to the Unsplash API happens in a protected environment where people can't see your secret key and your API key. So what I did was, just like Next.js offers, they have API routes. So inside of pages, API, I have unsplash.tsx. And in here, I just use the Unsplash JS, which is their server-side JavaScript SDK for the API. Super, super easy to use. To instantiate it, you just call create API with an access key, and now you have this Unsplash class that speaks to the API. And this is a Next.js API route. It is just an HTTP request handler, so it takes in a request and a response, and then you return a response. And so I reach out to the Unsplash API here, calling search.getPhotos with that search query, which is the random word that I have. And I only pick one item. And then I just format my response the way I expect it. I want the image. I need its description for alt text. I need the user who took it and a link to their profile. And I just return that with a 200 status. And so that's really it. I also wrote tests for this. I'll run them right now. I have pretty decent coverage. There was two things I couldn't figure out how to test, which is interesting. When clicking around, I have a couple links in here. And so if I clicked on Harry Mack to go to his website or BG to go to my website, I don't want it to trigger a new word. So if I click BG, it goes off to my website, but it's still back on the old word replied. So what I had to do is to add on click handlers there that stopped the propagation of the click event so it didn't actually move forward and grab the next word. Still haven't figured out how to test that with Jest yet, but if I give it a little bit of time, I'm sure I can figure it out. So that's the app. You can actually find it at right here, Freestyle Flashcards.vercel.app. Go check it out for yourself and maybe build a little clone of this if you'd like. It was a pretty simple little exercise, and I definitely enjoyed doing it. Maybe one day Harry Mack sees it and uses it to practice or live on stream or whatnot. That would be really cool. So thanks for watching this devlog about my latest side project, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.